Mansfield today on a Wednesday, and that means it's time to get into matters medical. And as usual, our resident GP is Dr. Vicky Skitter. Last week, hello, doctor.
Hello.
Last week we started off on the business show, and somehow cannabis came up on the business show, and then everyone started talking about cannabis. On the legal show, there was Lance Advocate Brogdon picked up on the cannabis story from the business show, so he started talking about the legal implications, what you can have, what you can't have, and all the rest of it. Yes, everyone started talking about cannabis, gardening, and cannabis came into the gardening show and everything. The one show that it didn't come into was the medical show, and we got a whole slew of emails afterwards saying, why didn't Dr. Vicky talk about cannabis? So we said, okay, fine, Dr. Vicky, we need to speak about cannabis. So here we are revisiting the cannabis thing, and it's also a takeover of Mansfield today, because this show is actually going to be renamed Skitter today, because joining us is your sister.
Yes, my clever little sister.
Marisha Skitter, CEO of ABIS Inc., the dispensary. Thank you very much for joining us on Mansfield today. So we've got a doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ja, ons het 'n dogter en 'n dagga-dogter. That's what my dad used to say. Hey, Mishi?
Right, now I know nothing about the medical aspects here. So you two sisters are going to have to talk to each other.
Okay, so she's the clever one. When it comes to cannabis, I just smoke it. Sorry, I'm joking. She just smokes it. So, sis, tell me, we're going to speak the Engelse taal vandag. So, if I get a patient and this patient now says, you're a quack, your medicine's not working, and I want to try cannabis, medicinal cannabis, how would they find a reputable source, or how do they go about finding someone that actually knows what they're doing?
It's so difficult right now. We have a couple of legal grow-ops that are allowed to grow in the country and that it's allowed to make their own medicine, but they're not allowed to distribute it locally. So all medicine that we are able to get at the moment is from overseas. It's imported from Canada or it's imported from somewhere, and we must be very careful with those type of medicine, because it wasn't grown locally, it wasn't grown on our soil, it wasn't grown by people who understand, what we need in our local environment. So I would work with a practitioner. I would start speaking to my doctors. I will start asking why the doctors haven't applied yet to start legally, distributing and prescribing cannabis, because they're allowed to. They just need to apply for it. It's just a very difficult medicine to prescribe because it's such a broad field and every person is different. But I would go search for someone who actually works with the medicine, who is a practitioner, who has a little bit of background when it comes to it. I won't just buy a bottle off the shelf. There's no one to guide you then.
Why are we not, Marisha, going anywhere with this whole debate about cannabis oils and that?
It's a politic fight at this moment. For a long time, for 96 years, cannabis has been illegal. And we've been taught in school and in workplace and everywhere that if they catch you with any part of the plant, that you would lose your job and get a criminal record. And now suddenly, 3 years ago, it's been made against our constitution to be able to consume this plant. So I'm allowed to grow it. I'm allowed to make my own medicine, and I'm allowed to, take care of my family. But they haven't opened it up yet for us to be able to be supplying and distribute it to people. And it's such a safe medicine. It's just because it's so complex. And as soon as you say the word THC, people start getting scared and, you want to make everybody high. And what about the children? But it's the same with alcohol. If we just take care of it in that way, children can get to alcohol as well. And alcohol is one of the most, devastating molecules out there. So it's the politics side. We're waiting for them to give us rules. We've actually got all the rules already. We can give it to them, but they first have to figure out who's allowed to distribute it, how are they going to do it to make sure that it doesn't fall into the children's hands, I guess.
That must be very frustrating for you. Tell me, Marishan, can you explain to us what's the difference between THC and CBD?
Sure. CBD and THC are both molecules that you find inside the plant. There are many different other ones. We have about 500 of them in the plant, ranging from CBN to terpenes that you also find in flowers and fruits to flavonoids and some cannabinoids that they haven't even discovered yet. I mean, this plant is brand new to the science world, but it's being used for tens of thousands of years. So now they're scientifically pulling it apart, which is beautiful, but it means that they are still finding some molecules. And the two main ones that we know is THC and CBD. THC is the one that we know that causes the head effect, or what people call high. But THC is also the one that's brilliant with pain, and it's the one that we need to kill cancer. CBD is a much softer molecule. It doesn't give you that high effect. It's really good with inflammation, but it's really important that we understand that we have to use all these molecules together. We can't just use CBD on its own. It's not going to cure anything. It gives you a 3-4 months of placebo effect, like most medicines do if you believe in them. And then after that, you realize that you need the full plant.
What is the difference between, try and explain to me the difference between cannabis and now we're talking English here, Marishan, and hemp. And I don't mean the Afrikaans hemp.
So cannabis and hemp comes from the same plant. It's the same, it's just different cultivars. And it's been, they say that the hemp plant just has much low forms of THC. I think at the beginning they capped it at 0.03% THC. And now I know people like Europe are moving up to 1%. So there's more than 22,000 different strains when it comes to the medicinal side of cannabis. Hemp has got its own cultivars. Some of them can grow as fiber, some of them can grow homes. But at the end of the day, it all comes from the same plant. We just use different parts.
So what kind of diseases do you like to treat with cannabis?
Well, it's such a broad thing. You know, a lot of people will be walking around saying that cannabis is a silver bullet, but we have to look at it in a different way because there's more than 22,000 strains, each with its own medicinal benefits. Some strains will use for sleep and some strains will use for anxiety. If I give someone who's highly anxious a strain who gives energy, I'm just going to push them into an anxiety attack. So there are many different ailments. We have beautiful results with autism. We have incredible results with cancer, all your autoimmune diseases, you know, from fibro to lupus, depression, skin issues. It's just so broad because cannabis just helps your body come back into homeostasis. And you've got a self-healing machine. It wants to heal itself the whole time. So we just have to give it the tools to be able to do it. And cannabis does that in a very broad. There are many other plants who have cannabinoids in, like lemon leaves and echinacea and black pepper. But cannabis is just a plant that gives us so many of them in one. So if we make a full plant extract, we can actually start healing many different ailments.
And what would you suggest if a patient is on other pharmaceuticals like hypertensive medicine or diabetes or antidepressants? What must they be careful about? Should they watch out? Should they stop it?
Yeah, well, we'll never tell someone to just directly go off their medicine. They have to work with their doctor when it comes to this. Cannabis has a great effect on the body. So, for example, if I have someone with hypertension and they are on a blood pressure meds, at some point cannabis starts doing its job and the blood pressure starts dropping. So that's where we've got to work with the doctor to be able to take that person off the blood pressure meds because the cannabis has actually started to heal the parts that, you know, that we need there. So I'll be careful when it comes to blood pressure because it does drop your blood pressure when it comes to that. It also has a thinning effect on your blood. So if you are on things like warfarin, just be careful. You're going to start dropping those molecules at some point. And that's at the end of the day, the idea. You know, you don't want to be on medicine for the rest of your life. You want to use medicine to heal you and then move on with your life. We here and there, we have a problem with the antidepressant, but we got to remember it's mostly mentally, most of our mental issues as well. You get scared when you hear THC, you get paranoid when you suddenly take your drops. So it's a working with a practitioner that makes it so important than rather just buying something off the internet.
Have you found in your dealings with general practitioners, for example, that they are willing to engage with this, let's call it a new form of drug, or is there a bit of pushback from them?
Well, I won't say there's a pushback. I think doctors are concerned about their patients. And now suddenly there's this new medicine on the market that have so many different molecules and so many different effects. And you've really got to get to know the medicine and your patient, that doctors first go, listen, I first want to see clinical trials. I first want to see what's been done, because they are protecting their patients. And for that, we have a lot of respect. And we've been asking the Department of Health that it's so important that we start educating our doctors, because they are going to be the ones who are going to be prescribing these to people, and to understand that there's so many different applications, and that we don't need to make people high. In fact, we don't like making people high, except if they're a little bit low, then it's not a problem to lift you a little bit. But yeah, that's at the end of the day where we need to get to, where the doctors start prescribing this medicine.
Okay, so where can the doctor now learn about it? Like, say you don't know anything about it, because it's a bit scary for us to script stuff that you don't know much about. Is there a course you can go on, or certificate you can get?
So there's a lot of international courses that you can do, but once again, we are working with our government to be able to bring something local, so that we can start taking care of our doctors, because it's so vast. Because right now they are allowing doctors to prescribe medicine that's imported from Canada, I believe, if I speak under correction. But once again, these doctors are not trained when it comes to this medicine. And it's a difficult thing for someone like me who doesn't have a doctor's degree to say, hey, I just want to teach you about this medicine. You know everything about the body, but I need to teach you about this plant. So we are working on it. Here and there, you do find people who give local training on what they've been able to learn working with patients specifically. So it just takes a little bit of time to find the right person online. But most of it is self-knowledge, Vicky. A lot of the doctors need to start going online, check out PubMed, check out the new studies that's coming out, and start immersing themselves in it. If there's a patient that walks into your office and says, I want to try cannabis, be the doctor who's able to chat it through it.
Yeah, I suppose it is a bit daunting as well, with something, as I said earlier, new that's coming into a market. I mean, you've been in the game for long enough to know that how drugs have changed over the years. And this is just another change that's got to be encompassed and utilized.
Us doctors are always, we don't like change that much.
I don't think any human being likes change.
Probably not. Yeah. And I always feel, I like to prescribe stuff or treat a patient, and I like to know what I'm doing. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not going to do it. So if I'm, so one must just be, like Mauritian said, you must make sure you know what you're doing. Luckily, I can just pick up the phone and phone my sis.
Mauritian, thank you very much for joining us on Mansfield today. It's been fascinating talking to you, and we've just touched the tip of an iceberg here, but we will revisit it once again. Mauritian Skitter, who's the CEO and a practitioner.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, cheers. Bye-bye. There you go. The Skitter sisters taking over Mansfield today. Thank you, Doctor. Lovely to
Jeremy.
see you again.
Nice
and
to see you.
You're not with us next week because you're going away on a little holiday. But we're going to be talking next week about, I'm going to be chatting to, you won't believe this, on the medical show I'm going to be speaking to a property developer. You'll have to tune in next Wednesday to find out what the heck that's all about. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks' time. Okay. Dr. Vicky Skitter on Mansfield today. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, bye-bye.